Hello, everybody. Welcome to Everybody Matters, our Family and Friends edition. I'm Jill Catherine, the host of the chat, and I'm very happy to be here today. So it'd be helpful if you tune in to let us know on the chat when you're here. We'd love to answer any questions that you have and support you in any way that I can. So we do this Family and Friends edition once a month as an opportunity to provide some insight, education, information about your loved one who might be struggling with an eating disorder and in recovery. We focus on a different topic or theme for each month, and we have a whole collection of videos that you're more than welcome to take a look at that are on our YouTube channel here, that they're all based on different themes, so you can see if there's something that speaks to you right now that you might want to take a look at. We do every week a virtual chat like this with those who are in recovery. And every week we talk about ways that we can continue to heal and empower ourselves through this process. And so one of the things that I wanted to bring to this chat today for you is to give you some insight into what our last conversation was about. And because as someone who has a loved one who's struggling with this disease, I think it's important for you to know on a deeper level what goes on for your loved one. We have a number of recorded chats that already take you through Eating Disorder 101 videos that give you some more insight on that. You know, how to support for a variety of different, informational and educational videos. What we're going to talk about today is really the need to grow our self-worth. In our weekly chat, we talked about how the obsession that we have in our culture, in our society with weight, with the weight of the body, is really an unknowing of our worthiness. We confuse weight for our worthiness. And to have a healthy sense of self-worth, it is independent of what our weight may be. At the core of this belief that the weight of our body will make us a certain way is the deeper root of our sense of worth. And that our sense of worth as a person has nothing to do with the weight of our body. That our sense of worthiness comes from the unknowing truth that I matter, no matter what. That I am enough. That I matter and I'm enough. We get confused in this disease that your loved one may be experiencing, that we think that for us to be, we've been told that for us to matter, to have worth in the world, to be loved, to be liked, that our worth comes from things outside of us, that people like us, that there's affection, that there's attention, that our worthiness is based on others' reception of us and their perception of us. And we're told right from the start that we're told that in our society that if you look a certain way, that's really lovable. If you act a certain way, that's really lovable. That's really liked, that there's worth in that. Then you have a sense of worthiness, that you matter based on what you look like. And certainly we've created a way of thinking and believing and hiring of people potentially based on the very superficial construct of what one person looks like, giving them more worth. Well, what we're doing in our recovery process is having to strip that away, that our sense of worth has nothing to do from what we physically look like. And that can be the most challenging part of that recovery process, is start to uncover and discover a feeling of worthiness that doesn't have to do with our bodies. You know, one thing I want to touch on, that oftentimes people will say, well, but we do want to care what our bodies are like. We want to be healthy, and we have an obesity epidemic and all these problems that we do have. And by saying that our worth has nothing to do with our bodies means that whatever body I'm born into gives me a sense, the fact that I'm alive, we have a sense of worth. And if we are caring for ourselves, taking care of ourselves, growing our sense of worth within, we would want to take care of our bodies. That would be a natural thing for us to do. The confusing thing happens is when we believe in the messages that we are told that a body that's being cared for has to look a certain way, that it has to have a certain weight, it has to have a certain image, it has to have a certain look. Health comes in all different shapes and sizes. And, as Carolyn Hodges Chafee, who's the director of the Nutrition Clinic, wrote in her book, Measuring Health from the Inside, speaks directly to that. So the conversation around health of oneself and of the body is not the same conversation. Is not just a weight conversation. There's a whole picture. Weight is one small component, a way to look at all the measurements of a healthy body. If we leave that there and then we talk about the sense of worthiness is knowing that we matter as people, that we are valuable, that we bring something to the world regardless of what we physically look like. And this is a very critical shift that has to happen in the recovery process. And it can be a very difficult one to do because our society is very image focused. We judge, we criticize, we categorize people on the way that they look. We give them different sense of worthiness because of how they look. Yet to recover from this disease, there has to be a separation in that of oneself. One's understanding is that my sense of worth and my value to the world has nothing to do with what I look like, has everything to do with who I am and how I'm choosing to express myself in the world. That's what our worthiness comes from. This physical part of me, here's the mindset we're trying to get to, this physical part of me, I'll take care, I'll treat it well, I'll move it, I'll feed it well. And however that ends up looking as maybe a weight or a physical shape is what I'm supposed to be, and that's okay. It doesn't have to measure against any other way to look healthy. And this is a very difficult shift to make because in the eating disordered individual, we want to be loved. We want to please. We want to be liked. We want to fit in. And that's a very difficult thing to do if you're allowing your sense of worth then to come from the inside. Because then you're not relying on the world to love you. You're relying on you to love you. Your sense of worth comes from within, not how other people are going to respond to you and look at you and treat you. And what we find is those of us who have suffered with this, that you go down the path of thinking if you looked a certain way and acted a certain way and had that image, then you would feel all that love and you would never, feel that pain. But that's not true. You still feel empty. You still feel not enough. The pain, the grief, the negative feelings, the difficult feelings still reside in us. And so how we're able to work through that is to start to come to a new understanding of what it means to create self-worth and to have a sense of worthiness, a sense of feeling that I'm enough, that I matter. One of the things that came up in our chat about self-worth, and it's a very difficult thing, is being able to share one's voice. So I give you this broader insight into what potentially could be going on with your loved one for you to connect with the threads. Because what the common theme was for those in recovery around self-worth was those who had moments that they felt they were enough, that they mattered, gave them the permission to speak up and to use their voice, to speak their truth, to express themselves when they were angry, to express themselves when they were upset, to give themselves permission to say, no, that's not okay. Or, can you please help me? It was all about being able to use their voice. So this disease, when your loved one is struggling, it's very difficult for them to find their sense of voice. And what we discovered in our chat was when we felt a sense of worthiness that I mattered, that was the first thing that came, was our voice, our ability to stand up, to ask for what we need. So your loved one may be having a very difficult time asking for what they need. And that comes from a place of not feeling as if they matter, that their voice matters, that they are enough. And as loved ones, it's a beautiful opportunity for you to help them find their voice. Ask them. You can ask them to share their truth. You can create a dialogue with them that says that if you set the parameters and said that you are open and with total non-judgment and an open heart and an open mind, and encourage them to share what is on your heart. What is your truth? What is it that you want to say? The challenge is many of us don't want to hear what other people really have to say. So your loved one doesn't say it, stuffs it down, dodges it, stuffs it down, stuffs it down, stuffs it down. And because they don't think you really want to hear what they want to say. And then before they know it, their voice is gone. And it's a process that this happens in. But this is a very real experience for all those who struggle with this disease, is this stifling of the voice coming from a place that they don't matter. That what's more important is keeping someone happy, keeping everything on the outside, safe, everyone okay. But then. And so for those who are in recovery, this is a constant growing edge. And I think for all people, it's a growing edge, is really understanding a sense of worthiness from within, not what your status is or job is or how much money you make or how many possessions you have. That doesn't, that stuff comes and goes. Real worth is immovable. It doesn't leave you within. It's where our courage comes from, our confidence comes from, our love comes from, our truth comes from, that sense of worthiness. And that is the root of what your loved one is really taking a look at and discovering in their recovery process. So I bring that insight to you for you to keep in mind, for you to reflect on your own ways. How do you feel a sense of worthiness? How do you understand what self-worth is? How do you feel that within yourself? And then hopefully you can help share in that growth with them and help them to find their sense of worthiness by encouraging them and reminding them that they matter no matter what, that they have value, that they have purpose no matter what they look like. One of the things we talked about in the chat is it's about the big picture in life. It's about the big picture. It's not about what we look like. It's about the big picture of why we're here. And if there's one thing you can do for your loved one is to constantly remind them that, to help them to separate from that tunnel vision of it's about the image to the big picture. It's about being in the world and being in life, and it doesn't matter what one looks like. We can say that, but how do you believe that? Do you believe that? And if you don't believe that, it's going to be difficult, for you to have this conversation with them. And there's no doubt they have picked up on that, because in some way you have indicated to them that their image matters, because if it matters to you. And you can choose to, live your life how you do, but that is at the core of one of the issues for your loved one. And I share that not in judgment of anybody else, but for you just to have insight into their struggle and ways that you can help support it. We can all make our own choices. This is insight to how you can support your loved one, to help them to understand their sense of self does not come from what they look like or what they do. It's how they are, then what their actions are from there. So I appreciate you tuning in and to getting some more insight in how to support your loved one, and we will see you next month.